James Cameron doesn't do what James Cameron does for James Cameron. James Cameron does what James Cameron does because James Cameron is James Cameron.
His name is James Cameron, the bravest pioneer.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Justin M. Bailey here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Justin M. Bailey. Hi, and I'm a not-for-profit YouTuber that doesn't really like to Facebook or Twitter. I even got rid of comment sections recently. Good for me. I'm not here to make money off of YouTube. Books, maybe. YouTube, I don't think so. And this is also one of the many reasons why I don't really have much of a subscriber count at all. Maybe you want to help me with that. I don't know. But otherwise, today, of all things, I want to talk about South Park. I'm a huge fan of South Park. I've been one my entire life, but especially after Mr. Garrison got elected to the presidency. And of all the episodes today, I actually want to talk about Season 16's Raising the Bar. Why? Well, funnily enough, it's not like this is even an amazing episode. You know, I frankly find a lot of Season 16 to be very forgettable. I think a lot of Season 15 is gold. I love the Broadway Brodown and, of course, Bass to Mouth, or Ass to Trout, same thing. I love those two episodes. But Season 16, no, not really. Raising the Bar, it's a fun episode. It covers all the South Park basics. Very biting and sharp social commentary, combined with all sorts of crude and sometimes gross out, ridiculous humor. The episode ends with Honey Boo Boo and Eric Cartman on his little scooter having a wrestling match in a pit of buttered spaghetti. Ugh. And if that just makes you want to throw up just thinking about it, well, that's the point. The point of the episode is how low the bar has dropped in our society, well before Mr. Garrison was ever elected president. It just seems that every single year, what was once previously considered unacceptable, next year, sure, why not? Get as fat as you want. Go for it. You know, if you get so disgustingly obese that you can no longer move properly, don't hit a gym. Just get a scooter, just like Eric Cartman did. Or let's make reality TV shows celebrating this kind of lifestyle rather than saying that no. This is not proper. This is not acceptable. It's a huge epidemic. The kids of South Park, especially Kyle, of course Kyle, are having a huge existential crisis about it. And even clearly, perhaps even the creators of the show of South Park on this episode are having an existential crisis of their own. They're asking themselves, as the creators of this insanely vulgar and crude, offensive show, they're asking themselves, maybe we did it. You know, they're like, maybe we had a part of this. And like, maybe us making South Park, maybe we've also been responsible for lowering the bar. Which, considering the topic they're talking about, I think that's an excellent question for South Park to ask. But funnily enough, good news on the episode. Do you know who's going to raise the bar? And not just figuratively, but literally raise the bar. World famous director James Cameron, the director and creator of two of my most favorite movies of all time, Titanic and Avatar? No. God, no. Aliens and Terminator 2. You see, James Cameron is loading up on the SS Cameron to the middle of the ocean because, according to him, there is a literal bar. Like our bar of standards or whatever. And it has dropped such a lower depth that he's going to go down there in his little mini sub and he's going to literally raise the bar. As if such a thing exists, or as if such a thing could magically make a difference. And his whole crew hates him.
You think he's dead? I hope so.
I think that might be the funniest part of the episode, because I think just a lot of people really hate James Cameron. And not just because, I'm sure at times he can be quite the megalomaniacal asshole. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the other day, he was talking about like, yeah, I like Aquaman, bro, but that's so stupid to make me think that people could just swim like that, like they're flying in water and everything. And he's right, but at the same time, it's like, it's a fucking DC movie, you asshole, right? So he can be an asshole, definitely. Wow, he's got a huge Hollywood history. Everybody's saying like, yeah, Jim Cameron's a fucking asshole. But the thing that I think people really get pissed off about James Cameron, honestly, he literally goes on deep sea expeditions. Dangerous ones too. If you did not already know this, James Cameron is one of the only people to ever, in a sub of his own creation. When he's not making movies, he's designing a sub. Who does that, really? To venture to the deepest and most isolated place on the entire planet. One of, if not the most difficult place for a human to adventure. He has done that. Really let that sink in, pun intended. He is one of the most famous and most successful, most influential directors of our time. And what does he do with his free time? That kind of crap. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if Jim Cameron decided to spend all his time just relaxing on a beach and just drinking Mai Tais when he wasn't making movies, we would not fault him for it. Or even after he became rich from making movies, if he never made a movie again and once again spent every single day for the rest of his life getting fat and obese and needing a scooter on the beach while sipping Mai Tais, it is socially acceptable for him to do that. We find it incredibly socially acceptable for you to be a fat, lazy piece of shit. But to be somebody that is already the top of your field, in his case as a director, and then spend the rest of his time actually spending time and money and potentially risking his life going to the bottom of the ocean, well, that's why everybody on the SSS Cameron hates James Cameron so much, and that's the number one reason why a lot of us hate him too.
You think he's dead? I hope so.
Because if he's doing all this to raise the bar, well, what are we doing to raise the bar? He doesn't get rich, and he doesn't get famous for doing any of his deep-sea exploration. Quite the opposite. So why the hell does he do it? Now, in the episode, James Cameron does literally eventually raise the bar up. And just like magic, everybody snaps out of it and suddenly realizes like, oh my God, what the hell are we doing? This is not okay. It's not okay for us all to be cheering, even Michelle Obama, to be cheering about Honey Boo Boo, for there to be a Honey Boo Boo at all, but Honey Boo Boo wrestling with Fatty Poo Poo, aka Cartman, in this disgusting pit of spaghetti. It's not okay. It's not okay to be obese. It's not okay to be physically obese. It's not okay to be spiritually obese. It's not okay to be a lazy shit, even if you're wealthy and famous, to be a lazy shit that does nothing but lie down on a beach all day sipping Mai Tais and getting fat on your scooter. It is not okay. Period. And South Park presents this through the commentary of their episode. But more importantly, the creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and just in case you've forgotten him, here's his theme song.
His name is James Cameron, the bravest pioneer.
And James Cameron. They all do their part to raise the bar. Yes, you can argue that South Park has most certainly lowered the bar as to what is considered acceptable on television. Yes, they are guilty of that. But they have unspeakably raised the bar in social commentary, not to mention that they only take 1 week to make every single episode. They make an episode in 1 week on South Park. That raises the bar. The big thing that Trey Parker and Matt Stone and James Cameron have in common is, even though James is one of the top most influential directors in his field, and South Park is one of the most successful animated shows of all time, that's not all what they do with themselves. Even though they have already raised the bar for these two areas as about as high as they can possibly get it, what they do instead is then they look for other areas where they can possibly raise the bar. Now, do Trey Parker and Matt Stone venture to the bottom of the ocean? No. But what they do instead was they made Team America. They made a unspeakably remarkable action movie starring all puppets. They made The Book of Mormon, one of the most successful musicals in a generation. And they also made the South Park RPG video game, which I love to death, and I gotta talk about that sometime. And of course, then James Cameron. He does many other things. He goes to the bottom of the ocean. He's like a board member on NASA, if you can imagine. So against all odds, they've already achieved more in one field, more than most people ever do in their lives. And instead of just sitting and being comfortable with that, like a fatty in a scooter, they immediately look for other areas where they can challenge themselves, because that's what it's all about. That's how you raise the bar. I want you to listen to these two fantastic quotes from James Cameron.
What are you doing? You're doing it for the task itself, for the challenge, and the ocean is the most challenging environment there is. So that's the thought I would leave you with, is that in whatever you're doing, failure is an option, but fear is not. Thank you.
Challenge is the reward. A lot of us are very obsessed with the idea that the reward is the money, the influence, and the fame. I would love me an assload of money, fame, and influence, no doubt about it, but that stuff doesn't matter to just the joy of the challenge. If I haven't said this yet, like, the view from the top of a mountain can be fantastic. But first of all, if you didn't enjoy the hike up, well, that seems stupid. It's just, everything is more about enjoying the hike not just the view. And the only reason why the view is enjoyable in the first place is the hike. You with me? That makes sense? Challenge is the reward. James Cameron and Trey Parker and Matt Stone have accomplished so much because they like to be challenged. Challenge is what makes you happy deep down. Money, fame, influence are nice. They're all fantastic things. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to get your grubby little hands on that as much as possible. I am. But I don't think any of that really makes you happy long term as much as challenging yourself. Nobody ever brags or feels satisfied about beating a video game on very easy. Nobody ever brags about that. Like, oh, no, it's all about playing it on very hard, right? So maybe we should all realize in one way or another, we're all honey boo-boos and fatty poo-poos just cruising around in our scooters, and maybe we should all get out a little and start walking a little. Start walking off a little bit of our spiritual obesity, wouldn't you say? And finally, what I'll leave you with is the other quote, where I think this quote's phenomenal because, especially since I don't necessarily believe in words to live by, but the number one philosophical sentence of this channel has always been,
Fuck you too!
yeah, fuck you too. I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter's The Thing, and that's how I feel about a lot of things. I think Cody Lundin would refer to it as party on. I refer to it as, yeah, fuck you too. Basically, it's like, I really don't care if this big scary thing monster is gonna beat me and there's no chance of survival or victory. Fuck you too. Still gonna do it. Kiss my ass. That's not a very PG way of saying it. A much better way to say it, a much more PG way if I was gonna tell people is, well, what Jim Cameron says, where he says, failure is an option. Failure is always an option, but fear is not. It's okay to fail. It's not okay if you don't challenge yourself. It's not okay if you do not do your personal part to raise the bar. Every single thing you have, every single thing I have, this iPhone I'm recording on, the heating system that's heating my house, the microwave that I'm going to be using to warm up my lunch in a bit once I'm done recording this. Everything we have is because thousands upon thousands of people suffered and died and fought to give us everything we have because they did their part to raise the bar. So in closing, you really are a selfish fat ass piece of shit if you don't do everything you can too. Work your job, go to school, take care of your family, whatever. What do you do with the rest of your time, fatty? That is the question. South Park, James Cameron, raising the bar. I'm Justin M. Bailey. Thank you very much.
His name is James Cameron, the bravest pioneer.
You think he's dead? I hope so.
SS Cameron! This is James Cameron!